All right. So this is a story from a few years ago. This was right around the time that I released my book, Fullness Guide to Sonship and Mysticism. It was either right before or right after. Um, at this point in my life, I was just now coming out of organized religion. I had detoxed most of my Christianity, still had some lingering bits, or more so, there were experiences that I hadn't had simply because of the area of fear or just unfamiliarity because of my upbringing, mainly that which related to soul science, the astral plane, understanding the soul, and things like that. I hadn't quite mastered yet. I didn't, it was an area that I hadn't looked into all too much. I was loosely familiar, but had no real expertise in the field yet. So it was around this time I actually started studying and I started experimenting just a little bit. And one of the things that I mentioned that I've been teaching for a minute now is that the astral plane alone is not evil. It's not wicked. Astral projection is not evil. It's not wicked. Not by default. It's just movement in another plane of existence that we already exist in. So I had already been teaching triunion, that we are body, soul, and spirit, and each of us are made for separate worlds. And I simply had not spent much time specifically engaging the astral plane or the soul. So I didn't have that big of an understanding of chakras yet. In fact, if you read my book, I skip right over the topic because I'm not comfortable teaching what I don't understand. So at this time, I'm getting familiar with chakras on a fundamental basis. And I've built up enough courage to actually start exploring the astral plane. So I sit down one day and I go, you know what? I've been exploring the spirit world for forever. I've been trans relocating and popping up on Earth, bilocating and things like that for years now. I think it's time that I get more familiar with the astral plane. So I remember my first time going into the astral plane. I sat down, I shifted into that space, I went into the astral plane really easily, and immediately I heard some of the entities around me go, wow, we don't usually see people from the royal family here. They usually don't visit us. And it was disembodied voices. I felt a consciousness around me. There was an energy around me, but I wasn't necessarily seeing any particular entities because that's kind of how the astral plane works. It's more thought based than it is form based. So I was aware of about three or four entities around me. Not evil, not necessarily positive, but curious to say the least. They were examining me. I remember seeing waves of color, kaleidoscopic images, and it's just looking at thought waves and patterns at that point. Pure consciousness. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm not necessarily sensing anything bad, but I'm not sensing anything good either. So I left. And it was a little bit of time before I tried again, before I went in to explore some more. Because again, this is my first time really engaging this world. I know I'm fine, I know I'm safe, but uncharted territory. I tell everyone that wandering is kind of dangerous in any world. Whether something negative happens to you in any world, it's not because even those entities are bad. Sometimes we find ourselves trespassing. So let's just say there was a little bit of a time gap before I went and practiced something like that again. So this next time, I go into the astral plane and I kind of just flow with the spirit and end up in a place. And this particular place felt familiar, even though I'd never consciously been there before. The energy itself, the consciousness of the place felt familiar. And there was this, it was like everything was like psychedelic, bluish pink. The area was made of bliss. There was area of water. Don't remember if it was a river or a lake, but there was some kaleidoscopic psychedelic water on one side, body of water on one side. There was um, trees and grass and other types of plants nearby, all made of this same, they were all made of bliss. The main floor or pathway that I was on was kind of like, I hesitate to say it was dirt. It was more so like a kaleidoscopic, prismatic, crystal type of floor. So, and as I'm looking around, getting familiar with the place, letting myself adjust, I feel completely safe. It feels familiar because it's a space that I'm used to living in. So while I'm looking around, I look at this water and I feel led to go and kind of like wash my face in the water. So I go over to this body of water, I wash my face in it, and when I pull my head out of the water, there's a person standing a few feet from me. Um, and he speaks to me and says, "Huh, no one usually does that. I haven't had anyone do that before. Last person to do that was me." And I look at him and I examine him and I'm like, who is this guy? Like, he feels familiar. He feels super familiar, but again, I don't recognize him. And that's when I realize it's like a knowing, a download drops into my conscious mind that this is the Buddha himself. This is Siddhartha Gautama, but in a higher form. He is in the shape of the Buddha, but he is still this, his body's made of bliss, is the best way I could describe it. It's like made of crystal, there's lights, and there's this energy pouring off of him. He's like living rainbows, is a good way to say it. And from there, I kind of just fade into the consciousness of the space. It stops being about form, it stops being about conversation, and I kind of just let, in a complete surrender and a complete trust, I kind of just let my soul get grafted in to this framework. Again, I'm coming out of Christianity, so I've never studied Buddha at this point. I hadn't gotten around to that yet. So I hadn't learned anything about any of the different forms, the different levels, what is wrong. I don't know any of that at this point. I studied and found out some of this later, but just being around him. So every time that I had encountered the Buddha, it's always been in that format, this prismatic body, this bliss made body. There's this energy, there's this, it's the best way I could describe it. It's a living, it's more than frequency. It's the pure consciousness of awakening in a more humanoid shape, but it's more about the consciousness than it is the shape. So that was kind of how my first meeting with him went. It was later on that as I, delved deeper into my own mysticism, my own sonship, that I came to realize that the reason that Buddha feels so familiar is that he's the same spirit that Yeshua is, just in a different form, a different body, in a different dimension. So it's someone I already knew, just a different dimension of the same entity, because spirits are fun like that. So that's a simple story about my interactions with Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, and what I believe is known as the bliss body. So hopefully that was inspiring for you. Those of you who are more versed in Buddhism, tell me, what does that mean? Of course, I have my own understanding of those encounters, but I'm interested to hear what y'all have. And have any of you met any entities, any beings while being in any other planes, whether the spirit world or the astral plane? Leave it in the comment sections below. And let me know if there's any other stories y'all like to hear from me. As always, if you want to connect with me, you can do so via my website, caveofmystery.org. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Later.